Welcome back. So in this video, I'm going to be explaining this compiler which was done, I think, last 2 weeks or so for you guys. And the compiler is built using the Node.js runtime environment along with the JavaScript syntactic language and some other dependencies. So as you can see here now, I have this particular files open. Let me close down this. I'm going to start with this file here, which is the package.json here. So when you come across this file in your project, this particular file contains information about your project and how to run this particular project itself. So it's a must for Node.js to run and compile this particular project itself. So this file contains both the name of the project, the version of the project, the description of the project, which is set to empty by default, and the main, which is index.js. By default, is going to be like this. That is, if you want to run your if you want to run this program using the Node CLI interface, so you have to do Node, then whatever file, or if you want to run this particular project from a server endpoint, maybe in your main hosted server. But let me go into that. Then the next one, we have the scripts. So basically the script tells let's say your server on how to run this particular script. Right now it's just set to test, which is gonna print out this particular message here. If you want your server to run this, let's say you bought a website or a hosted server, and you want this particular script to go into your server. So all you have to do is to put by default here, put the start script here and put in Node, then the starting file. Yes, yeah. So the reason why I didn't set this is that because I'm not actually running this from the interface. Sorry, from with the Node command here. I'm just running it as a built-in bash CLI. So let me show you here. So this is actually the project is. So you can simply come in and type in node app.js here to run this particular file, but I'm not doing that. I'm basically using the bash command here, which I've installed on this Linux here. So when I run this particular bash name here called Jcompiler, it prints out these functions here. It prints out this message, the name of the project, and some other options here, which is right here. So if you want to make use of the bash script, you can simply run this command, Jcompiler, and this particular script will run the app.js using Node. Then the following, the next one is the dependencies here. The dependencies contain the packages or modules which were used to creating this library. So as you can see here, the commander library is basically used to ask to run basic commands, like now the commands which was run here. Let's say jcompile slash whatever commands here, slash v slash h and slash c. They are the commander is responsible for this. While the figlets is a module or package which is used in displaying beautiful fonts in the terminal. So normally you can only display text here in the terminal, but with this particular library you are able to display ASCII character using the dot and sorry the slash or the hyphen symbol. So going to the next module here, the inquirer. The inquirer is basically a module which enables us to ask questions or ask inputs from the user. So let's say I come in here and type in, let me just click terminal now, and I type in, let's say I want to run this slash c here, and I type in jcompile -c. Now watch, it asks me the programmer asks me this question. It says enter just the name of the Java file you would like to create, for example main and test and random or random name. So this particular input here is basically a question, and it requires you to put in an input. So the module responsible for this is basically this inquire.js module here. While the bin folder here tells your PC to run this particular command as a bash script. So when you come in here and type in Jcompiler, just as I have done here, this Jcompiler keyword here, the your system looks for this particular folder and runs the project using Node, followed by the starting app here. So let's move into the app here. So that's just the package of JSON. Like I said before, this package of JSON contains information about your project. So let's move on to the next file here. I want to discuss about all this. Let's move into this node modules. So the node modules is a folder. Right now, when you download your project from GitHub, you won't see this node modules folder there until you've installed all the dependencies name listed here. Once you've installed all this folder will appear. So basically, what does this folder contains? This folder contains different utility libraries which are powered by which enables this dependencies to work. So basically, they are trying to tell you that this commander or this figlet or this inquirer makes use of some of these utility libraries here. Like this figlet makes use of some of them here to ask or to display different questions or display different asking character code in the terminal, or to ask question for this inquiry here. So all this library here depends on these libraries in the node modules here. So by the time you run the npm install, it's basically install these dependencies along with all these necessary libraries here for Node to run the application smoothly. So now we have this we have some other libraries here. Some other projects here. This .vs code here tells VS Code on how to run this particular project here. So this isn't necessary here. VS Code automatically injects this once you create the project. While the executable folder here contains the java.exe and java.exe, which enables us to run the program. Now, this particular folder is deprecated, so by the time you are downloading your project, it's a must for you to install Java on your system. Otherwise, this particular program won't run. The reason why is that this java.exe doesn't contain the release source code to run this program here. So it's deprecated. This particular these files here are deprecated to use. So it's a must now for you to have Java installed on your PC. On the next file here, the Java test folder here. The Java test folder contains some files which you want this particular program to compile and execute. So let's say you want this program to compile some written codes here. All you have to do is just come in here and create the necessary file here and the code here. Then use some commands to run the file name from the to compile the codes inside this particular file which was created by you. Now then the next folder here includes these two from files. The first one is ask users input.js. So this file here contains some functions which enables the program to ask inputs or ask questions from the user, and the user should provide input in return. The next file is cli.js is basically the main file. So this particular file here does the computing and the compiling here. So I'll go into this later. Why this generate source file? I don't know why it's here, but I won't explain this. It's just, I think it shouldn't be here. It's meant to be in some other project, not here. Why the utility .js file here contains some utility function which can be used just for short, like that. For example, we have the log, we have the colors, and we have the outputs here just to do basic stuff, and we have the ASCII code to print out some ASCII character in the terminal. And the root file, this particular file git ignore. This git ignore here tells GitHub on some folders or files to ignore. So basically, whatever folders and files you put in here, GitHub will ignore it whenever you're pushing your code to GitHub. Then the root of the file, which is this add.js. The add.js contains the main information about what this program needs to do to run it. So I want to start with this particular file here. First of all, we initialize this particular file with with what we call shabang or whatever name you call it. So basically, it executes this main file as a bash script. So whenever you want to start a bash script, you put this at the top, followed by whatever runtime you want to run. You want the bash script to run this. Now I'm producing Node. So whenever I compile this code here, Node will run this particular script here, based from this package JSON file here. Then the next thing I did was to import this particular library here, which is the Figlet. The Figlet, like I said before, is meant to run to output out ASCII character. So I don't think I'll be using it here. So let's just remove it. Every of this utility function are defined in the utility folder here. Sorry, file. Now let's look at this part here. Say the below module enables us to deal with commands in our compiler command line interface or CLI. So right now I'm requiring out the commander module, and I'm destructuring the program method here, which has the program instance, which has a method called version, which enables me to set the version of this project. As you can see, it says set the program version to string. This method auto register the /v/vv/ sorry, not slash, hyphen version flag, which will print the version number when passed in. So let's say you want, now I'll give you an example now. So let's say you install Java on your system, and you're being asked to check the version of your system of the Java compiler, and you run Java then followed by the version here. So as you can see here, it prints out this particular version. So that's what this program does here. The program.version here enables you to set the version number, or the version details about your program here. So just as it's printed out here, this particular folder, this particular program, so will be able to print out this string here, which is this. So by the time you type in your program name, which is Jcompiler, then -v, is going to print out Jcompile, then the version name here, because I've actually set this. The next one is this files and function here, which is ask user inputs, ask user for inputs, ask user for Java inputs, and ask user for input OS. Now these are basically being exported from this main file here, which is this. They're being exported from this file here. The ask user for input is exported from this file, this and this. All what they did is just ask user for inputs. They don't do anything special like that. So basically, once you run the program, this function gets executed, and it enables you to ask input from the user, making use of the inquire library. So the inquire library, like I said before, it enables you to ask questions or input from the users. So let's say you want the user to provide a particular file name for you to compile, or you want the user to provide a code for you to compile. This inquire enables you to ask users for input from the command line interface. And what it does is that let's say you want to ask a user different questions. The questions can be created in an object, and then all questions which you want to ask must be put in an array. The array will contain a list of objects. The object contains information about the question type which you want to answer. For example, now we have this variable called questions. The questions it contain is an array like this, and array are actually they are data types which contains multiple which can contain multiple data of different data types here. So this array here contains different information about contains different objects. The object in turn contains information about the question type which we want to ask. Like now, for example, now we set the name. The name properties is based on this inquiry. So this inquire library here recommends also putting the name of the inputs, the question which we want to ask. For example, now we have file name here. The file name is responsible so that we can be able to access this particular question when it's being we can be able to get the response from the user based on this name here. in the type here, we are setting into inputs. So basically, the user will type in whatever input they need. It could be text, it could be number or string. And then the message is basically what is being displayed in the terminal. So once you run this, once you run a particular command here, based on this app.js, once you run this or this or this, the questions here are being displayed here. So enter just the name of the Java file you would like to create, for example, main, test, or just a random name. Then the next key here, which is the validate. So as objects are made up of keys and values. What you see here, all these things you see here, they are called keys. While the next thing that the next property that which is followed by the key are called values. So the validate key here contains a function which is meant to validate the user input. So let's say the user didn't provide an input. We want to throw this error and say, please enter the name of the Java file you would like to create. If they keep on refusing to provide the input, we keep on throwing the error message to them. Now please provide the name of the file which you want to create. Then the next question is this code input here. So this one, it enables us to open a default editor for our system. So once this particular question comes in, write some Java code snippets and close the default editor window after writing your code. Right now, this won't work in my operating system, which is Linux. I don't know why, because I think because Linux doesn't have a default code editor there, so it won't open. Whereas if you run this in your Windows operating system, the default editor which is going to be opened is this is your notepad. So your notepad will be open as a default editor to write this code here. And we set the type. The type is basically editor. So this type, once this question reaches, it opens your default editor based on this particular type here. Sorry, this type here. Then we are telling inquire to prompt all this as a questions. So once this function gets executed, the inquire prompts all these questions which we've put in here. So it answers the questions and validate them to provide the given output. Then the next thing is ask user for Java input. So let's say your Java code or your Java file which has a code that asks users for input from the terminal. This program is run. This particular function gets executed because it asks users for the inputs based on your program. So let's say your program is trying to ask a user for an input. Let's say provide your name or your username. The program here enables you to ask Java input from the user based on the codes specified. So this is actually limited right now, except you're gonna use Python to create something like this. But right now, this function is limited because you can't ask multiple. You can't take in multiple Java input from the user. You're only taking one input from the user, and once the enter key is being clicked on your keyboard, that particular input is being asked, is being inserted to whatever code you've written. So basically, it just asks users for input here. Say your program requires an input, please provide the input here. Then we validate the program here. Then the last question is this. The last function is this: ask user for input based on the operating system. The reason why I wrote this function is that in Linux we can't actually I think the Java which I installed on my OS has a problem, so I had to create this particular function to ask users for input based on this operating system. So let's say you want to create a new file. It says enter just the name of the file you would like to compile. Then let's say you created a file in this Java test file and you're trying to compile it. This function here is being executed. It asks you for the file which you want to compile, which has been created here in the main directory, and it compiles it it combines the code written in it there. And then it just validates the code and gives you some outputs there. Then we are telling inquiry again to prompt these questions as input. So they prompt these questions here to the terminal. Then we are exporting it here. So to export a file, or sorry, to export a function or a class, we make use of the module .export here, which we listed the functions which we want to export here. So these are the main functions which we are exporting from this file here. And then the next one is CLI. Or before that, let's go into the utility.js file here. So the utility.js file contains some information which we want to display to the terminal. So all these are color codes which is being displayed in the terminal. So this is not actually being in use right now. So let's move on to the first function, log. So instead of you typing in log and console.log all the time in your terminal to get some outputs, you can simply make use of this short function name called log, and it takes in the text which you want to log that in the terminal, and the start color and the end color here. So it's the start color. if the start color isn't provided, we are just returning the log body to the terminal. Whereas if it's provided, we're just logging it with the color code here. So let's say the user provide let's say black, we render out black here and all these particular color codes here. Then the next next function is colors here. So the colors does the same thing with this. So it asks you for just putting whatever text. Let's say you call this, the colors is an object which has different keys, which are red, green, white, cyan, and blue and yellow. So each time you want to print out a color in the terminal, you can simply call colors.red, and it print out a red text in the terminal, or colors.green to print out the green text in the terminal, or color.white to print out a white text in the terminal. So that's what this object is doing right here. Then the next thing, which is output here, just all it does is basically output this particular code here to the terminal. And the next function is ASCII character. So this ASCII function takes in a text from the user, and it prints out the ASCII character based on the text provided. So it makes use of the Figlet module, which helps us to print out beautiful ASCII character in the terminal. Now, lastly, the CLI.js contains the main functions to compute and compile whatever codes. So let's just get started right now. Now we're carrying the different stuff from here. Right now, we're not making use of these two variables, inquire and this. So I'm gonna comment this out later after this video. Then let's look at the module we are requiring. First of all, we are requiring the path module. The path module enables us to work with paths in our computer here. So let's say you want to move into a particular directory, or you want to get a full path based on the current directory which you make use of this particular path module. Then the child process module. This is a built-in module. All this particular module, the child process module, the FS and the path module, they are all built-in modules in Node.js. So the child process module has different method within it. So what this does is that we destructure the execute method from the child process, which enables us to run and execute a given command. So I'll go over that later on in this video. Then the next one is FS. The FS is basically a short term means file system. So this the FS module enables us to work with file system. Let's say you want to make a particular file, you want to create a file, you want to create a folder, you want to delete a file or delete a folder, you want to move into a file and grab the text there, or you want to do some certain automation tasks with this particular file. This module is used for that. Then with the next thing is we want to get the executable file now. So right now this would actually be like I said before. I said the executables here, which is in this particular file here, they are deprecated, so they won't work on my system again. So there is a must for you guys to download Java and install it in your PC for this to actually work. So I'm going to comment this out and save the file. Then I won't go over this right now because they are unnecessary. I want to go over it again. So let's look at this first function, create Java file. The create Java file is a function which enables us to create a Java file based on the extension provided. So first of all, what we did is that we want to check if actually a temporary folder is available, because that is where all the Java files will be created. So I can't actually test this out right now because the program won't this operating system won't work for the program. It will work in the Windows OS, so this would actually work. So what it does is that it makes use of the paths. First of all, we assign a constant variable to this. We created a constant variable called directory or dir, which makes use of the path module. The path module has a method called join. It enables you to join different paths together to form a one unique path address in the terminal. So let's say you want to grab the direction names right now. This direction name here basically prints out the main directory we are working on. So it prints out this. Let me show you right now. I'm gonna go ahead and copy out. Let me copy out the paths first. So right now it prints out this. It's gonna print out this. It's gonna print out this as the main direction name, which is the home variable, then the documents, projects, and the Jcompiler CLI. So it prints out where this project is being located at. That's what this direction name is. It gets the full directory where this project is, and then we want to join different parts together to it. So we join a string which has the dot slash. So this particular this direction name will print out where this file is located. Pardon me for that mistake. It's going to print out where this file is located. Right now it's located in this library. So I'm going to go ahead and copy out this part here, then paste this just for you to see it. So right now it's located at home variable document project, then c then /lib here, which is this library folder here. So it's where this file is this file, this CLI.js is located in this folder here called lib. So we want to go outside of this folder. We want to move outside of this folder and select and create a new temporary folder here. So what we did is that we join different parts. We make use of this. The dot slash, this dot then slash tells the program to move out of this folder, just as you would do normally in your terminal. CD then dot. So let's say you want to come out of this download folder here. You can simply type the CD then dot. As you can see, we are out of this folder here. So that's what this particular stuff does. It comes out of this library folder to the main folder where this file, so where your project is. So we come out of this folder, and then we provided another part here. So this part here, this /temp, basically add a new part to it. So it's gonna be like this /temp. So you're basically telling it that you want to check if actually a variable called temp is within the main directory here. Is within this main directory here. So providing in this /tmp or the folder name which we want to check. So we created it. So this would actually produce this. This dir will produce what we have up here /tmp. Now we want to check if this particular uh, folder exists within the main directory, and we want to make use of the file system module. The file system module has a method called exist sync. That is, we want to check if actually a particular path is available in this main directory. So we make use of the fs.existSync. Right now it says returns true if the path exists and false otherwise. So it's just straightforward. It returns true if this particular path exists and false if it doesn't. So we're checking if this temporary folder exists first. So I mean we're passing this symbol here. So this symbol basically, when we instead of us doing this fs is equal to false here. So sorry, false like this. What we did is that when we put in this symbol here, this exclamation symbol here, it tells the program that if the return value is false, then do whatever we wanted. It's basically doing the same thing as this here. So this not here, or this apostrophe here, is basically doing the same thing as this. So we're checking if this return value of this method is false or true. We want to do this here. Right now we are saying if the return value of this method is false, then we want to create a new that particular folder. We want to create a folder of temporary here. So we make use of fs.make directory sync, which enables us to create a working folder based on this. So I'm going to test this out right now. I want to come in here. First of all, let's create a test file here. So I want to show you guys how this works. I'm copying out the parts so I don't need this here. I just need the fs and the parts here. So let's let's do this right now. So we are doing this right now. We are making use of the part and the fs module, the file system module, and we are checking if actually this directory here exists. If not, we want to create that particular directory here. So let's try compiling this. So if this particular directory exists, let's return this. If it doesn't exist, we want to create a new working directory and end the program. Else, if the particular directory exists, we want to print out this. We want to say folder of temp exists in working directory. Then let's try running this. So I'm going to open this up on the terminal in VS Code terminal. So this is the terminal here, and I'm going to compute this file. I'm going to compile this file using node, this test.js file. So to compile this, I'm going to type in node test.js. So right now, I don't know if you've noticed something. It should create a folder. It should be able to create a folder once this runs. So it says folder tmp exists in working directory. So the reason why this happened is that we created the folder outside of this working directory here. That's the reason why we can't see the folder here. So if we go into the project now, then we saw this particular folder here. So I don't want to do this. I want to create this folder within this working directory here. So I want to remove this dot slash here. So basically I'm checking if this main directory here, let me copy the path. So this will create a new tmp folder here, or temporary folder here within this working directory here. So let's run this again. Now please, I need you guys to look at this place here. Let me just zoom in a little bit. So please watch this place here. Now once I run this, or I think something just happened. I didn't save the file, so it won't work again. Let me save the file right now and go back and delete this temporary folder here. So let's try running it again. So please watch this area here. So right now it's created this particular folder called TMP based on this commands here. So when we try running this program again, instead of us creating a new working directory or a new folder within this working directory, we just want to print out this. So let's try that now. So it says folder TMP exists in working directory. So this program is trying to tell you that this particular folder called TMP or temporary folder exists in this working directory here. So I hope you guys understand that. Then let's just cancel. Let's just come back again. Then since I've already explained this, so if this particular file, if this particular folder exists, we move on to the below operation next. So what we did is that we want to create a new Java file name based on the extension provided from the program. So basically it's going to be the file name which the user passed in, then the extension which will be Java. So it's going to be whatever file name, either color.java or test.java or mark.java. That's what this particular file name would be. Then the file directory just enables us to join this directory, then the file name here. So let's say you want to add in a new file within this temporary folder here. All we did is that we added a new directory called, so we added a slash, then the file name, whatever file name here, say color.java here. I don't know if you guys get this, so let's try doing that now. So let's say I want to create a file within this temporary folder here. All I need to do is just to put in the slash and whatever file name is. Let's say color.java. So let's try running this. So as you can see here, it created a new file called color.java. If I want to create another file here, it's going to be do the same thing. Let's say color2.java. So now, oh sorry, I think it's created a new folder, not a file. So let's try deleting that. So I think this particular what we did is to join a new file name here. Then later on we can then create in a file. Let's go back here. So this is it here. We join the file name in order for we to create the whatever file name plus the extension either color.java. Then we join them together to create a new working directory, just as I have shown you above. So this will be then color.java here. And the only way we can do this is by making use of what we call a function called write file. So the write file here is a method within the file system which enables us to create a new file and then append data into that file. So let's see what this method does here. Let's copy all this, paste it right here. So it takes in the directory here. Let's provide the directory here. Then the code will the inputs. So this write file, it takes in set and synchronously writes data to a file, replacing the file if it already exists. So right now it takes in the path. It takes in a path here, which we specified up there. Then it takes in a data, which we want to put, or the data which we want to write to that particular file. Then it takes in a callback function. The callback function would get executed after everything has been correctly done here. So it takes in the path. The path right now is this. Then so let's try to provide the file name here to it. So let's say plus slash let's say color.java. So let's try to do that now, right now. Then it takes in the input. So the input for now would be, this is just a test file. Then it takes in the callback function. The callback function contains an error that tells that the error would be executed if actually an error occurred while creating the file. So we are checking if actually there is an error here when creating this file. If there is no error, we want to just return, let's just log out saying file created. So let's try doing this right now, and then we're going to stop the program. Then let's try to run this. So let's do this. Right now it comes in here and added this temp color.java, and the reason why is that it's added it concatenated this particular file with this temporary, so it won't be temp slash color.java, it's going to be temp color.java, which we don't want. So let's try to add slash there. The slash means we want to add this particular file name inside the folder like this. So let's try that now. Let's delete this and run this. It says file created already. Let's check the temporary folder now. So right now we see a new file called color.java, and this is just a test file here. So that is how we can be able to create a new file and create a new folder with Node.js and the file system module. And let's move on. And then after doing all this, we're just returning the directory in which the file is and the file name, so that we can be able to compute the data within this file, within the file later on. So each time we call this function, the function will return an object containing the file directory and the file name here. So let's move on to the next function called compile Java code here. So the compile Java code here is an asynchronous function which makes use of the async and await keyword. So what this does is that it waits for whatever program we are running. So it doesn't wait for any program to run. It just do whatever whatever the program needs to do, and wait for the next program to finish running. So let's say you want how this works is that this asynchronous function here tells this particular function to be asynchronous, which enables us to which stops the waiting of any program. So let's say you want to write to a file when this particular stuff is done, or you want to print out this message before writing this particular file. That is when this async keyword will be useful. So we are making use of the async keyword in whatever program we want to write. So this function will be an asynchronous function when we try to call it. So what we are doing right now is that we are getting the file directory and file name from this function here called compile Java to create Java file here, and then the Java file takes in the file name, the code, and the extension here. All this here which will be written here would get called in the app.js file here. So I'm gonna go over that. So it's after creating the file, it returns the directory in which the file is and the file name. Then we created a variable called command, which will contain the command which we want our program to run. So it's basically you make use of the bash command here. So what we did is that we joined this particular directory together. We joined this we are trying to get this directory here, this folder here, and compile the file within this particular folder here. So let's say you created the file and you want to compile the data within the file at the same time. Then you can simply make use of this. So let's say the command goes like this: cd. The cd means change directory into this particular directory which we provided. I mean change directory into this temporary folder which is going to get created later on. Then compile this and means then after moving into this directory, we want to compile the code using the Java compiler. So we are making use of this Java, then the file name here. The file name will be either color.java or whatever file name was provided from the CLI. So how this works is that it won't work though on my system. So let me just show you guys. So when I do jcompile and then slash let's say /c, it asks me for, it says enter just the name of the Java file you would like to create. For example, main. So let's say main. It said write some Java code snippet and close the default editor window after writing your code. So once we click on enter, it's supposed to open a default editor window in my OS, but unfortunately it didn't, because a default editor isn't set on my operating system, whereas this snippet of code would work on yours if a default editor is set. That was the reason why I provided another option in this particular compiler for you to be able to compile code from a given file here. So all this right now are inputs based on inquiry.js library. So it asks us for inputs from the user. So it's basically, and this command right now is just a text. So what this does is that it's going to move into this folder here. So it's going to move into this like this. It's going to move into this folder here, this directory here. Then it compiles the given code using the Java compiler followed by the file name, either main.java like this. So let's say you created a file name called Java. It's going to compile the code using the Java compiler and followed by the file name and whatever code that is within the file name. Sorry. So that's what this particular command does. I want to leave these comments later on for reference. Then we execute the command. First of all, we created an output object. The output object will contain information about the return value, either an error or a default output. So we make use of the execute command from the child process here. So it says spawns a shell, then execute the command within that shell, buffering any generated output. The command string passed to the execute function is processed directly by the shell, and special characters vary based on the shell need to be dealt with accordingly. So it's based on whatever shell your system is, and by default we make use of the bash shell here in my system here. So the bash shell will be used in running this command here above. So what this does is that it takes in a command, then it also takes in a callback function here. As like I said, the callback function will get executed after a program runs successfully. So the callback function returns three different things. It returns the error, the standard output, which is the output of the program, and the standard error, which is the error when compiling the program. So right now it says we're checking if actually there's an error. If there's an error, we want to append the error to this particular object here, which is this. We are appending it. We are saying output, then the error message. We are passing in the error, then the file name, and this error message. Then we are calling the callback function, which is based on this function here. So the callback function, this CB, will be called later in our app.js file here, which is this here. This will be the callback function here that we are passing in here. So we check if there's an error, we want to return the error. If there's an error when compiling the program, we want to return the error when compiling the program. Else, if there's no error, we want to return the output of the program and some other details from the program. That's the reason why we are doing this here. And when we run this, it does the same thing like the rest. So let me show you how this execute command here goes below. So I'm going to go into the test folder here. I'm going to import the execute this exec from the child process module here. child underscore process. So let's try to execute a simple command here. So let's say we want to go into this folder here. We want to create a new folder. So we want to create a file. We want to create a file. After creating the file, we want to compile that file and to give us an output here. Or let's try to compile a different file. Let's say you want to compile a different file here. Let's say test.java, and this will be public. Let me just copy out this and paste it right here. So let's say I want to compile this particular program using the execute keyword, sorry, the execute method from the child process library. What this does is that the way we can do this is by doing this is by calling the function, by calling the execute function, then passing in the command. So let's try to create the command here. We want to move into the main directory. So let's do this. Let's create we want to cd into the main directory. So the main directory would be path.join, sorry, not the join, .join, then the directory name here. Then we want to move into this directory. This would provide this, like this. It's not this particular variable would provide this as its value. So this part here would be provided as the value here. So let's try to do this. cd into the directory here. Then we want to compile. We want to check for a, sorry, not, we want to move into the directory and check for a file called color.js, sorry, color.java. Now this name is based on, sorry, not this, not temporary folder. Sorry for making that silly mistake. We want to compile this file here, which is test.java. Then let's say we want to move into this directory. I think I'm making a silly mistake right here. Let me come over it again. Now I want to move into this working directory. The working directory would provide this particular part, which is the main part for our program. It's going to move into this directory. Afterward, we want to compile a file called test.java. So let's try doing that. Java, then test.java. Then like I said this would provide an error and standard error and a standard output. I think let me check the formats. Standard output first, second, then the standard error third. So standard output second, then standard error third. Then we want to check if actually there's an error here. If there is any error, we want to log it to the console. Then if there is also any standard error when compiling the code, we want to do what? Log it to the console. Else we just want to log out the output here. So right now let's try compiling. Before I compile this code here, or sorry, run this code, first of all we are creating a new directory here. So we're not creating, we are joining a new directory here. This directory name here prints out this as the output here. So it returns this particular part as the working directory where your project is as the output here. So now right now we are saying move into this working directory and look for a file name called test.java. Then make use of the Java compiler to compile the code. Then we check for if there's an error, we want to return the error. Then if there's any error when compiling the code, we want to return the error. Else we want to return the output here. So let's try doing that. So it says directory has already been declared. The reason why this error occurred is it said identifier directory name has already been declared. Is that when we create a variable when we assign a constant keyword to a variable name called to whatever variable name, that variable name cannot be reassigned or created again. So we need to comment out this. So let's save the file and compile it again. So as you can see here, it returns the output here as below, because the program here returns hello world from the Java program here returns hello world. So let's try to put in an error here. So as usual, every Java program must end with a semicolon, else it's going to result to an error. So let's try doing that. This program now will result to an error. So let's see what the program gives us. It says compilation failed, expected column, sorry, semicolon at the end of this statement here. So that's how we can be able to catch error when compiling our code. Hope you get that. So let's close this folder, this file, sorry, and move into the next one. So that's what all these functions here are doing, and the rest are just the same, except that this particular program accepts input from the user. Once it accepts input from the user, it compiles the input along with the particular file provided. So right here, we are moving into this particular directory. We are compiling the Java. We are compiling this particular code with Java. Then we are compiling the file name with Java compiler. Then along line with the input.txt. So what this does is that it's going to create an input.txt file here. It's going to create an input.txt file. After creating the input.txt file, it's going to append, or sorry, insert the input data provided by the user into that particular file, and then compile the code, compile the necessary Java file along with the input file. So let me give you an example right now. I'm going to come in here, I'm typing, and look for a program that accepts input from the user. So let me just copy out this. I'm going to copy out this, then go into a new file called test.java, paste this right here. So right now the program accepts an input from the user, which is system out enter username here. So let's try doing this right now, because right now when we compile this, let's see what the output gives us. So as you can see here, our program hangs, because why? It waits for we to provide input from the users. Even if we type all this here, it doesn't give us any value. So the only way to fix this is by creating a new file. So what we need to do right now is that before compiling the code, we want to create a new file which will contain the input file. Sorry, we want to create a new file called input.txt. Then we want to pass in like this. We want to pass in the input file just as you saw here. We want to do this. Where is the command? We want to move into the directory, then compile the file name, and then pass in the input.txt file here. So let's pass in the input.txt file here. So the input.txt file is based on this. Let's pass in a default input. Say my name is Ben Daya. Let's save this right now, and let's try compiling the code. Let's see if we got any error. So as you can see, it says enter your username, then it prints out username is my name is Benaya. So it compiles the Java code alongside with the inputs.txt file, and this is how every other web compiler does. If you've seen any code editor like HackerRank or let's look at this rebel.it or CodeTots, the compiler which they use makes use of this method too. So they create a new file, then append a particular data into that file, then compile the Java code alongside with the inputs in order for you to provide a new output from the program. So that's how this particular program works. So before compiling the code, it creates a new file here. It creates an input.txt file here. Then push the inputs from the user into this particular file. If after everything went well, we want to write this, we want to execute this command here, which compiles the Java file alongside the input.txt file to produce a default output here. And this is how every other file does, except this, except the function which I'm going to show you right now. This particular function here. So this function right now, what it does is that it compiles a given Java file based on the code inside it. So what it does is that whenever you run a certain program, you put in the particular file name here, you create a new file. Let's say color.java. Then you copy out this, paste it right here. So let's say each time you want to compile this code here, you want to compile a Java file, what this does is that it moves into a parent directory containing this folder called Java test file, which is this here. Then it checks for a file. it compiles a file. So right now it checks if actually that particular part exists alongside the file. If it doesn't exist, it says fail to compile because file not found at whatever directory is. It checks if this part exists. Then it compiles the command below. It runs the command below, making use of cd coming into this folder, then compiling the Java file here. So it does the same thing like every other program I've explained above. So let's try running this now. So when we run jcompiler/f, it compiles, it runs this function here. So let's try to provide the file name here called color.java. Now it says fail to compile because file not found at this particular name here. And the reason why is that if you can see it here, if you can look at the full outputs, it's saying color.java. The reason why is that we provided an extension to this particular file, whereas we are asked not to provide an extension. As you can see, it says enter just the name of the file you would like to compile. So let's try doing that again. So let's try to enter the name of the file, which is color. So the output is what is hello world from this particular program here, from this file here, which is this. I hope you guys understand that. If you don't get this, you can simply ping me on you can ask questions to Color, then I can answer the question back. So let's go into the last file, which is the app.js file. Like I said, the app.js file enables us to compile. It runs every other program we've written in this project here. So we are importing every other file we exported from this function here, and then we are initializing this particular code here, which is this colors.green, then print out the ASCII character code here. So when you run this program here, this stuff that displays here is coming from this. So it's not just magic. Then what we need to do is to set up the CLI commands. So let's say this commands I wrote here, the jcompiler/f. To run this command, to set up this command, we did all this. We make first of all we destructure the program from the commander.js module. Then we set up the options for the user to type in. So this slash v we print out the version number, the slash h we print out the help, and the slash c we compile the code. Then slash c slash I, sorry, hyphen c hyphen I or dash c hyphen dash I we compile the code with input. Then dash f or dash compiles file we compile a given Java file based on the file name provided. Then slash q we quit the program. So let's try to do all this. Then what we did is that we passed all this to the process.arg. So the process.arg or the process.argument here, let's look at this. It says the property returns an array containing the command line argument passed when the Node.js process was launched. So basically what is in simple terms is that when we run this program, this particular program takes in the process, it makes use of the process.arg or arg value, whatever name you want to call it. It makes use of that process.arg value to pass the compile result, and it returns an array. The array is based on the option here, the options which was provided. It could be slash f, it could be slash h or slash v or slash c, then slash I, like this. All these are the arguments provided from this CLI. So it returns this array. Then this commander.js module extract that value and print and do some actions based on it. So we are saying if this particular options here, then we created an options variable here which holds the options from the program. We are saying if the option does help is being called, we want to print out this to the terminal. Then if the options dot quit is called, we want to quit the program. So right now, let's say I type in that slash q. So as I can see here, it says quit true. It actually quits the program from running any other stuff. Then what we need to do right now is we are checking again if the program, if the command line argument has a command called dash compile or dash c. We want to run this function here. So this function is being called from the CLI.js file here. So the CLI.js file export this particular function called compile to Java code, which takes in the input from the user, which takes in the file name from the user and the code input from the user, and then the extension, which is Java, which will then be replaced with the file name .java or whatever file name which was provided from the user. Then it compiles the code. It compiles the given code and returns the results. So if there is an output here, it returns the output here. If there is an error, it returns the error message here. And it does the same thing for others. All this stuff are just the same thing with what I've just explained here. They perform the same action. Else, if the user fails to provide a default argument here, we just provide them with these options here, which is this here. So let's say I type in Jcompiler, then whatever rubbish argument here, it prints out the options. It says unknown argument here, and the reason why is that the program wasn't able to detect the argument here. So if no command line interface was given, it should print out this. It should print out these options here. So right now, the command line argument wasn't given, so it printed out this particular command line options here, which is going to be used to run the code here. So I hope you guys understand that. The reason why I can't run this is that I'm going to say it again. I'm on a Linux Ubuntu machine, and there's some certain configuration which I want to make to run this particular program. Else, if you're on Windows, this should run exactly as the code expected it to. So I hope you guys gain some things from this lecture. Wishing to see you guys next time. So I think that will be the end of this tutorial. Not just tutorial, but explanation. I want to push the default code to GitHub so you guys can have it now. So when you guys download this particular file from GitHub, you should have the latest updates from GitHub. Thank you.